Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
Throughout the Old Testament, God spoke to people in so many different ways. He gave warnings and instructions to Noah, commands and promises to Abraham, dreams to Jacob. He spoke directly to Moses out of a cloud on the mountain, through a donkey to Balaam, through a hand writing on a wall in Daniel, as an audible voice to Samuel, and as a whisper to Elijah. He sent angels to Gideon and used the Urim and Thummim for the Old Testament priests to know his will. He used allegories and all sorts of strange things for the prophets to explain him and his word. He had Ezekiel lie on his side, had Hosea marry a prostitute, and all sorts of creative ways that he chose to reveal himself to his people. Each time, the people he spoke to got little glimpses of who he was, but never a full picture. Throughout the Old Testament, the word of the Lord would come to a prophet, and he, or sometimes she, would share that word to the people. But that was the Old Testament. The coming of Jesus changed everything. Hebrews 1 verses 1 and 2 says, God, who at various times and in various ways spoke in times past to the fathers by the prophets, has in these days spoken to us by his Son, whom he has appointed heir of all things, through whom he has made the worlds. This is a completely new way of God communicating with us. God's word became a person, Jesus. And John 1:14 says, the word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. When Jesus came on the scene, suddenly all of who God was, all of his character and attributes, were embodied in a normal, ordinary-looking man. Every action, every word out of his mouth was straight from God. He didn't have to say, the Lord told me to tell y'all, or thus saith the Lord, like we find throughout the Old Testament. Anything and everything he said was straight from God because he was God. That's why the people listening to him were often shocked by the authority with which he spoke. Jesus was God speaking directly to his people, giving them a clearer picture than ever before of who he is. Jesus put God within reach. He was right there. As he told his disciples, he who has seen me has seen the Father. The words that I speak to you, I don't speak on my own authority, but the Father who dwells in me does the works. That's why John sounds so in awe when he wrote 1 John 1:1 and 2. He said, that which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon and our hands have handled concerning the word of life, we bear witness. The disciples not only heard him and saw him, they experienced day-to-day life with him. They traveled around Judea and Galilee with God. John 1:18 says Jesus came to earth to declare God or explain him, interpret him. As you have read the New Testament, how has Jesus explained God to you? How have you learned about God from knowing Jesus? Who can you declare him to today?
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through his word. You can listen to other episodes at our website, which you can find in the description below. Thanks for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.